Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you might be. Today, we're going to take a look at the Progimex WMS solution for SAP Business One. I'll be showing this on SAP Business One version 10.0 on the HANA database. But what you see today will be applicable on both HANA deployments as well as Microsoft SQL deployments. So there's nothing unique about being on HANA that'll change the way Progimex WMS looks or feels or acts. So to get things started, let's start with the an introduction to Progimex and maybe a 30,000 foot view. So when Progimex is installed, it's an add-on like any other add-on for Business One. It'll add a new menu item here, and it adds a lot of new functionality. Now, Progimex not only is going to extend all of the inventory functionality out to handheld wireless devices, but it's also going to add some additional functionality. It's going to give us the ability to get very granular in how we set up and define our warehouses. So part of the setup of Progimex WMS is going in and defining your organizational structure. So for example, in my system, I've got about 30 warehouses, but I'm only managing a half a dozen through Progimex. That's one of the nice features. You may have 20 different warehouses, a few 3PLs and whatnot, and you don't have to turn Progimex WMS on all of those warehouses. So that gives you the flexibility that you can decide which warehouses do we really want to optimize first. So for me, I've got a general warehouse, and in here, I have a touch screen, which is this little bad boy right here. This is literally a touch screen. I can touch the keys or use a mouse. It could be running on an Android tablet, something of that sort. And it's typically used as a packing station if you need it. And so I've got a packing station as well, a scanner. You could have multiple scanners, all configured for this one warehouse. And then I have some zones set up. So if you think about a zone as a logical location within a warehouse, north, south, east, west. For me, I've named my zones different things because I have some goods that require a cooler. So I have bin locations inside of a cooler. I have a bulk zone where I've got most of my bin locations. And I'm using a combination of standard bin numbers, bin 1, bin 2, bin 3. But then I have my special bin. I've got dimensional inventory. So if you're dealing with sticks and pipes and tubes, I've got a bin for everything that's 3 feet and under, or 3 to 7 feet. And then I have a bin for damage inventory. So you can create these bins using real simple naming conventions, or you can get very definitive in what you want to call your bins. Each one of these bins, though, you'll have the ability to print out a bin label. So you'll have a barcoded bin label that sits atop every bin. That way, the Wi-Fi transactions can occur very quickly and seamlessly without any data entry errors. And so I won't go through all of my zones in here, but you can see I've got a pretty nice separation within my warehouse of where things go and where to put things. So that's one of the first setups we do is we decide how do you want to lay out your warehouse. Then one of the next things we do is we go and we configure Progimex WMS. And this is where we can turn on or off all of the features and functionality that'll make Progimex WMS almost like spandex. It'll fit you like a glove. It'll do exactly what you need it to do. And so some examples of that, let's go into some extension parameters. So as an example, these are all part of the Progimex system, and each one of these has different rules of how it might work. So for example, when I get into picking and packing, so if I go to my pick list controller here, you can see that there's a number of options. Do you allow ad hoc picking? Do you want the system to automatically fill in the quantity on the handheld you're supposed to pick for the operator so they don't even have to key in a quantity? So you'll find a lot of things like this. How are the pick lists going to work? Other things like quality, if we're doing an inventory transfer, a move, right? Do we always have to scan the product? And again, just a lot of different options in a lot of different areas. So the setup does take a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. On the defaults, this is where we list all of the default Crystal reports that are used for goods receipt label, shipping label, item labels. And then down below here, we have default quality statuses that says, when I receive some goods that come in through receiving, is that quality status of that good, is it released, which means it can be put away and used, picked, packed, and shipped to a customer, or when it comes in, is it quarantined? Is it blocked? And this gives us the idea, and what's kind of neat about this is we can actually set this status up by supplier. So certain suppliers may require inspection and their receipts will come in quarantined, while other suppliers may not require inspection. So again, this is where all of it's set up. One of the concepts, though, we do need to discuss early on here is a concept of an SSCC code. In an SSCC code, it is a serialized shipping container code. And what this does is it represents, it's a barcode. It's also known as a GS1 label. Now this barcode, in this case here, this SSCC code is equal to everything on this pallet. And this could be a mixed pallet of goods. But the beauty of the SSCC code is if I want to move all these items on this pallet to a bin location, all I have to do is scan this one barcode, because it in this number, it tells me everything that's on this pallet in these boxes, packs, inner packs, cases, everything that's on this pallet, I can find out from this one barcode. Then if I pull some of these packages off this pallet and move them to a location, a storage location, then this can generate a different SSCC code. And this SSCC code will be equal to these three boxes. So an SSCC code is a serial number, a GS1 label, but it's not related to a single item. It's related to however that item is packaged or items are packaged. So an SSCC code could represent a mixed pallet of goods, or the same item packaged three different ways, or three different items. But if whatever's moving together, wherever it's stored, will be the SSCC code. So that's a concept that is prevalent in enterprise-wide WMS systems. And ProjectMex WMS uses the SSCC code. That's what makes this an enterprise-level WMS system. So it uses that best business philosophy, or that best business practice of using SSCCs. What that looks like, let me give you an example here, is let's go into ProjectMex and let's open up the inventory report. Now this is a new report you get with ProjectMex. Here I can focus in on certain items, item groups, warehouses. I'm just going to say, show me everything. Now what we're seeing here on the SSCC column is the SSCC codes. And so you can see, for an example, if we look at this first line here, this SSCC code shows that the inventory tied to this SSCC code is sitting in bin 10, it's released, and it contains 96 units of this item. And whereas another SSCC code, completely different number, in the same bin, and it contains a different quantity of this item. I have the exact same item again here with a different SSCC code, and it's sitting in my receiving dock, and I got 2,400 units that need to be put away. So this SSCC code is representing the item or items, as well as the quantity and where it's stored. So that's the SSCC code. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the organization structure, setting it up. We've looked a little bit about the inventory. We've seen some SSCC codes. Now let's actually do some ProjectMex transactions. So to start, let's start by bringing some inventory in, and then we'll go ahead and sell it and ship it, and we'll use the handheld scanner to do it. So first off here, I've got a brand new purchase order for 2 pallets of goods. I've got 2 different items. This PO is for two pallets. And that's all I've done is put in a purchase order. Now, using the handheld, what we'll do is we'll go into purchasing, and we're going to do a receiving transaction. Now it's asking me, now I have 5 different receiving docks that I can receive goods. I've got 2 receiving docks with the big garage doors. I've got a cross-docking area, which is a logical location between receiving and shipping. And then I have a receiving location out in my yard. But this truck is pulling up and it's backing up to RD1, or my receiving dock 1. So that's where I'm going to receive these goods. Now, this is where if the vendor is putting an SSCC code on the products I'm receiving, then I can simply just scan that vendor GS1 label, and it'll tell me exactly what I'm receiving, the quantity, and the items. If the vendor isn't sending the goods with a GS1 label, then I can receive against a purchase order. But I can also receive goods if there is no purchase order, and I can also receive goods against a container. So one of the nice features of Progimax is the ability to do full container management. So on the purchasing side, in here, you'll see an option for container management. This is where you can build a container and make sure that you're not going over the total volume size, the total weight, or value for insurance purposes. You add your purchase orders that are going into that container, and then you keep track of that container. Because this container now is in transit, when I go back into my handheld, and if I select container, there's container 9. Now I can go ahead and receive the entire contents of this container with my handheld. So I'm going to go back a little bit here, and let's just go ahead and for now, let's receive against this purchase order. So we're going to receive against an order. Now here's a list of all my open purchase orders. The purchase order I want to receive that's coming in is 1355, and here it is right here. So let's receive that PO. Now it's asking me about the GS1 labels, or also known as the SSCC codes. So this is saying, Mike, do you want to receive both of these pallets under the same SSCC code? If I say identical logistics units, then this will create a label for each pallet, but they'll both have the same SSCC code. And I'm able to move both pallets at one time by simply scanning one of those labels. Now, because these are different products, I probably don't want the same SSCC code on 2 pallets of mixed products. What I'm going to do is I want to create a unique SSC code per pallet. So I'm going to say no identical logistics units. Now, my first one I'm receiving here, 6307, there's no label on it from the vendor. So I need to go out and tell the system that I'm receiving the 6307. Now, if there was a product label that was barcoded, I could also be scanning in that. We're going to receive our first item. Now, this item here, I have set up multiple units of measure. So I can sell my high resolution can lights in eaches, cases, and pallets. In this case here, we're receiving a pallet. So I'm going to go ahead and select that I'm getting 1 pallet, which is also equal to 9 cases. If I click the little information button here, it tells me the total quantity I have left to receive. So we're going to receive a pallet of those. So let's do that. Now it's asking, do you want to print a label? So I'm going to go ahead and print a label. We want to print 1 label for the pallet, or there are 9 cases on that pallet. If I wanted to, I could print 9 labels and put 1 on each pallet. And I'm going to save this label as a receipt. Here we go. It's my receiving label. There we go. So we've printed our label. We can stick it on the pallet. Now it's saying, are there other products underneath the same logistics unit, the same SSCC code that are not scanned? The answer is no. We're done with that first pallet of goods. Now, we've already printed our labels, so we don't need to do that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to receive our second pallet of goods. And it's the 6308. you'll notice the 6307s are no longer on this list because they've been received. So we've got one item left to receive on this purchase order. This came in on a pallet. You want to print a label? Yeah, we'll print a label. We don't want to reprint it. That prints a label for us. Now these labels are printed to Zebra printers, and the logic behind the labels are crystal reports. And that allows us to adopt just about any barcode symbology you want, whether it's one-dimensional, two-dimensional, QR codes. Those are all fully supported. Okay, now if I refresh my purchase order, you'll see that it's now closed. And if we look at the relationship map, we'll see that we have a goods receipt that came in against that purchase order. And that goods receipt came in because we received that purchase order via the handheld. So you can see it's very simple and easy to receive goods. Now, if any of these goods were lot controlled or serialized, then I'd also have the opportunity to scan in or enter in the lot and scan in or enter in the serials and any attributes related to the lot and or serial, like best by date, best before date, expiration date, warranty start, end date, color, you name it. Not only standard lot attributes, but also any user-defined lot attributes. So in fact, let's take a look at that. Before we go any further with the handheld, let's drill down into one of these items. And let's look at the fields, the additional fields that get added into the system when you install Progimex. So now in my item master, you'll see that there's a brand new tab called Progimex. And in here, this is where I can specify, are there certain zones that this item has to go into? Does this item require refrigeration? Does it require a clean room, something like that? Or are there specific bin locations this item needs to go to? In this case here, I have a designated bin location for this item. So this will give me suggested put away with the handheld. And let's do that right now. We received our goods into the receiving dock, but what we want to do now is we want to do a put away. So let's put away the 6307 item. So I'm at my receiving dock. It says, Mike, you've got 3 items out there. Let's take these 6307s. So what I'm going to do is I am going to scan the barcode. Let's see here. Just a second. Okay, so we're going to grab that label. I'm going to scan it in. And now you'll see an example of a directed put away. Now, what this is asking me is really important. This is saying, Mike, are you going to move the entire pallet with one SSCC code? Now, if I answer yes, this will allow me to move the entire pallet to the bin location where it needs to go. But if I answer no here, now I can start depalletizing the goods. I can start pulling off cases of mixed goods and then putting them away, each with their own SSCC code. So do we want to move the entire pallet? Yes, let's move the whole pallet. And now you can see there's that example of a suggested put away. So this is telling me I need to go over to bin 10. So I'm going to walk over to bin 10. Once I get to bin 10, I'm going to scan in that bin number. Now that I'm at bin 10, it's now moved those goods. Now I have a couple of more goods I need to move. So in fact, while we're here, let's just go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and move the 6308s. We'll move the whole pallet. It's saying that also goes to bin 10. So we're going to walk over and put that in bin 10. And that one's being moved. And let's see, Eric, do you want to try? No. Now let's grab this one here. Let's grab this. I'm going to grab that barcode, scan that in. And now let's go ahead and move that entire thing. When we will go ahead and put that in bin 10. There we go. And we're done. And we'll leave this one here for later. So now what we've done is we've received our goods and we then did a put away. And this shows where that location is. Now you could have multiple locations here. And this is the first one it'll go look at. But it is possible that this bin could be full. And so the user may want to know a secondary bin, a third bin. And so this will lay it all out for your warehouse employees. This also gives us the ability to have multiple units of measure just for inventory, multiple units of measure for sales. When we sell this item, is there any specific packaging that needs to be done? Also, are there any sales remarks that we want to pop up when we sell this item? So if I go into a sales order here, and I go to sell a 6307, and let's do that. 6307. When I hit tab, you can see there's that pop-up remark. Do you want the extended warranty? So that's an example of how you can, further extend the reach of Business One with Progimex, even into sales and into purchasing as well. Are there any pop-up remarks you want to show up when I go to buy this item? Progimex WMS does integrate with production orders, but it integrates in such a way where you're issuing material to a production line, and then once the production's finished, you're then moving that produced material into stock. It's not clocking in, clocking out, or tracking time and material within a job. It's simply moving inventory to a WIP location, and then when the job's done, moving the finished goods into stock. That's the integration with production. There's a feature here called catch weights. Progimex WMS will also work with catch weights. And a good example of catch weights are cheeses. I may buy a case of cheddar that weighs 42 pounds. And so with my supplier, I'm paying for 42 pounds of cheese. It goes into my cooler location. It sits in there a month before I sell it. But when I pull it out of my cooler location, the weight has changed. It now weighs 39 pounds through dehydration. So when I sell this cheese to my customer, I need to catch the weight at that time because that's what my price is based on. So that's how catch weights work. And back on the lot and serial attributes, this is where we can add unlimited batch attributes. You could have as many as you want, and then you can make them optional or required, and then you can link that to a batch. Now, this would be linked. If I don't check this box, these attributes will be linked to an SSCC code. If I check this box and it's a batch controlled item, they'll actually be linked to the batch. And then, of course, any kind of allergens. If you're in a food industry, some regulatory compliances requires to track allergen codes, and those could be tracked as well. And then the last part of this is the 3PL. And Progimex, it gives our customers the ability not only to use 3PLs for their storage of inventory, if that's needed, but act as a 3PL for your customers. So if you've got customers buying inventory from you, but they're asking you to hold that inventory for a short time, you can actually bill them for holding that inventory because you're acting as a third-party logistics provider or a 3PL. And so this is saying, if I'm going to store inventory for a customer, what is it going to cost that customer? And what is the outbound price? Now, these are not the only two prices. Then you can add in additional cost based on the number of items, the volume, the weight, you name it. You can get real creative in how you're billing your customers for storing their inventory. So these are the fields that get added when we get into, or when you load in Progimex. All right, so just a real quick recap. We've gone through the organizational structure. We talked about how it's set up, defined, the options. We entered a purchase order. We received it via the handheld. We talked about how we can receive containers and create containers. So now let's go into a sales scenario and let's look at that. Let's go in and let's place an order with Earthshaker. And what we're going to sell Earthshaker are some 6307s. There you go. You can see there's that pop-up. You want the extended warranty and the 6308s. Okay. Now, normally when we bought these, they came in pallets. You can see here I've got different units of measure for sales. And so in this case here, we're going to say they want 6 of each of these. So we'll go ahead and key in 6. And then we'll put in a delivery date. And we've got a sales order ready to go. Now, what Progimex does is for your Progimex warehouses, Progimex eliminates the pick and pack manager. So when you're running with Progimex warehouses, you no longer have to use the pick and pack production manager. And some people really like that. Some people are upset. They love the pick and pack manager. But believe me, Progimex WMS has a really nice approach or a real nice alternative to the pick and pack manager. So this is where we have several different options here. And this can be as automated as you want or as manual as you want. Right now, I'm set up to be pretty manual so I can show you all the steps along the way. But a sales order now, what we need to do in order to ship a sales order is there's 2 things. We need to create a pick list proposal and a pick list. Now, when I add this sales order, it can automatically create the pick list proposal, like I just did here, and then it can automatically generate the pick list. So again, this can be automated or it can be manual. Now, the way that the handheld works is it needs a pick list in order to pick. So if we go into sales, now that we've created the pick list from the sales order, what we'll be able to do here is go right into picking. And in picking, this will show me all my different pick lists. The last one, of course, being the pick list for Earthshaker. Now, you'll also see a collection of pick lists here. And that's what we call a wave pick. Now, a wave pick is a pick list that contains multiple pick lists for multiple customers, but it will walk you through the warehouse in a succinct order where you're not having to double back. And so in an environment where the items are fairly small and you could pick multiple items by pushing a cart or a forklift, wave picking can save thousands of hours over the course of a year by picking multiple orders at one time. To do a wave pick, what we do is we go into Progimex, into sales, and we go into our different pick lists here. This is where we can bring up an individual pick list. And from here, when we're just dealing with an individual pick list, some of the cool features are if I'm out of something, I can pick alternates. I can skip and maybe not pick that item. I can reprint a pick list or I can close the pick list. So that's if we're working with pick lists. Now, earlier we created the pick list proposal and pick list from the sales order. But we also have the ability to, and this, by the way, will list all of our open sales orders that don't have pick lists. And what I'm able to do here is I'm able to select multiple orders and then generate a wave pick. And a wave pick, again, is just a pick list of pick lists. So let's go ahead and let's pick this order. So we'll go ahead and select the order we want to pick. You just saw there, it's printing labels. And now it's telling me, these boots are telling me, Mike, you need to walk on over to bin location 3, and you have 6 of the 6307s you need, and you need 6 of the 6308s. So we're going to push our cart over. Now, this is where I could be using a movable location. Am I moving a cart? Or am I just going out to pick this one order and I'm not using a cart? In this case here, I'll start by saying I'm using a movable location. I'm using my ML1 cart 1. So now picture a shopping cart that has a barcode on it. That's what I'm pushing through the warehouse to collect these goods. Now, once I get to the bin location, I can also bring up an image of the product I'm here to pick, just so I can make sure I'm picking the right one. So this is telling me, Mike, you've got to walk over to bin 3. You've got to grab 6 of these items. So I'm over at bin 3. Normally I would just, let me go back here. I'm over at bin 3. Normally I would just simply scan in the barcode label, just point and shoot right at the bin label. But because, again, this is an emulator, I'm going to use my selection option here, and I'll select bin 3. Now it's saying, okay, you need to pull 6 of these 6307s out of bin 3. So here's the 6307s. And it's going to ask me how many you're pulling out. I'm not pulling out any pallets. I'm not pulling out any cases. I'm pulling out 6 eaches. But you see how that number defaulted. That's because that goes back into the setup in the organization structure. This also tells me what's the maximum I can pick. You know, how many do I have in stock? All right, so let's go ahead and let's pick those items. Those items are now picked. Then it's saying, okay, Mike, you got 1 item left to pick for this order, the 6308. They're in bin location 10. So we're going to walk over to bin location 10, scan in that bin location. Just to see we're picking the right part, I can bring up the image, and now we'll select our 6308s that are in bin location 10. And again, we're not going to pick cases or pallets, but we're going to select 6 eaches. And now those items have been picked. And then any other pick lists I need to go out and process, I can. But those items have been picked, and they're we picked them to a movable cart. So let's now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to use our packing station. So if you're using a movable cart, then you're rolling that cart up to a packaging station like this, where there's a touch screen. And I'm now going to package those goods for delivery. So I'm on my packaging line 1. I've got 2 packaging lines. What I'm going to do is I want to start a new logistics unit here. And I'm going to enter the cart. This was ML1. That's the cart we were pushing. And it's saying, okay, on that cart, you've got some goods on that cart that need to be processed. So which one are we going to pack? Let's go ahead and pack this one. We'll select that. Now it wants me to scan in that barcode. Now this is a validation step to make sure that the right package is going to the right customer. And on that, it's now saying on that, see now here's another good example of the SSCC code. We scanned one code, but it brought up mixed items at specific quantities. Now, this one here, I'm seeing a package with an information mark on it, and that's just letting me know that this one needs to be bubble wrapped. So I've got the goods here. I can see they're going to Earthshaker, the address. This is where I do all of my packaging. And again, once I package these goods, then I can go ahead and I can add these items and I can finish my logistics unit. Now it's saying, do you want to print a label? I'll go ahead and print a label. I don't need to reprint it. And then it's saying, okay, we'll move this over to a bin or a shipping location. I've got a shipping bin and wait for Motor Express to show up. And now we have packaged those goods by using our packaging station. Now let's do another sales order. I'm going to duplicate this order, but this time we're not going to use a movable cart. And we'll use the same customer, Earthshaker. Oops, we need a date in here today. And let's go ahead and do that. Now, from my sales order, I'm not going to generate the pick list proposal, and I'm not going to generate the pick list. Instead, we're going to go into open sales orders. Now you can see I get a list of my open sales orders. Let's go ahead and let's duplicate this for another customer as well. And we'll do this for Maxitech today as well. There we go. And we'll add a second sales order. And let's go into open sales orders. And here you can see I get this instant list of all my open orders. Now, everything that's due to ship today is going to be highlighted. I may have orders listed here that aren't due to ship today. So this is the replacement for your pick and pack manager. I'm able to see exactly what needs to ship. I'm able to see the quantities that's needed, the weight, the price, the volume, my inventory visibility, all of this stuff. You can also see here how it shows that each order has a total of 12 units. Now, with these selected, what I can do is I can create my pick list proposal. And there we go. This created those pick list proposals. Now, if I want to, from here, I can then generate my pick list. Now, the other option I have, is when I create my pick list here, if I want to, I can create a wave pick. And so again, that has to do with some setups in the organization structure. It'll add a wave pick button here, so you can create a wave pick. But let's go ahead and let's generate our pick list. There we go. So in this case here, we didn't generate the pick list from the sales order. We did it in mass mode by looking at all of our open sales orders and then deciding which one we were going to pick from there. So let's go ahead and let me bring up my last sales order. Here it is. There we go. So here's our sales order. We now have a pick list and a pick list proposal that we generated through some Progimex procedures. So let's go ahead and let's ship it. But this time, we're not going to use a movable cart. So we're going to go into sales. We're going to go into picking. Let's scroll down. Here's our pick list for Earthshaker. We'll pick the first item. This time we're saying no movable location. We're walking over to bin 10. We're going to then pick our 6307s. And we need, oops, let's go back. I missed it there. I was too quick. Okay, we're back at bin 10. I have a trigger finger. Now we'll select our product, 6308s. There we go. And this is saying you need 6 of those. So we're going to get the 6 eaches. There we go. Those items are picked. And now it's saying, take these over to the shipping dock and wait for your carrier to show up. And it's printing a label, and we'll call it shipping. Here we go. Now that generated a label for me. And the sales order has now been picked. Now I've got another one, MaxiTech. Let's go ahead and we'll pick that one real quick here. And you can see once you get the hang of this, it's really quick. No movable location. Okay, we're going to go to bin 10 for these goods. In bin 10, we need 6 6307s. Okay, make sure I get the right part. Select our 6307s. Okay, we're not shipping cases. We're doing 6 eaches. That's been picked. I now grab my second part I need out of bin 10. So we go over to bin 10, scan in the bin number, select the 6308s, and we're going to ship 6 of those as well. And it's been done. Now and again, take it over to the shipping dock. Here's your SSCC code, and it's printing a label for me, and we'll call this one shipping. There we go. And that created our labels. And we're done. So there we picked, packed, and now we haven't actually shipped the goods yet. But what we did is we packaged them up. The first time we packaged them up, we used our packing station. The second time we packaged them up, we just did it right here from the handheld. So the packing station is optional whether you want to use it or not. It does come in handy if you're using movable carts. That's where it really comes in handy. But now we hear the 18-wheeler pull up out back. They're here for our shipments. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the sales module. And in sales, we're going to scroll over a little bit, and we're going to load these on the truck. So we're at the shipping dock, and we're going to ship against a pick list. And these are all of our pick lists for Earthshaker and MaxiTech that we need to load on to the truck. So we'll take our first one here. We'll select that one. All right, and this one's got a couple of boxes that need to get on there. So we'll take the first one. And so I just simply scan the barcode that's on the box, and that loads it on the truck. Second one, I just simply scan the barcode that's on the box, and that loads it on the truck. And now my delivery is created automatically. Now, this is also at the point where we integrate with ShipStation and ShipWorks, V33Ship, UPS, FedEx, other freight carriers. Typically, what we'll do is we'll have the delivery created as a draft. We open it up, do our shipping rate shopping and whatnot. And so this is going to be a packing slip, I believe. There we go. We'll save that. And we're not going to reprint the label. So now what you've seen then is you've seen us do some purchasing and receiving, and then some putaways. You've seen us enter sales orders, a bunch of different sales orders. Some we used a movable cart and then took them to a packing station, packed and shipped. Others we just picked and then packaged it and shipped it without a movable cart. Now, there's a lot of other things that can be done with Progimax. And let me just touch on those. The first is the inventory report. This is more of a workbench than a report. For example, if I want to look at all these items we were just using, 6307, 6308, this report is going to show me everywhere this item is located. And the quantities, the bin locations, everywhere it's at. Now, what's neat about this screen here is I can move inventory quickly and effortlessly. So if I'm looking at these canned lights here, I got 107. And let's say I want to move some of these from bin 10 to bin 11. Then I can actually do that from here. I can simply perform a move. I'm going to move 7 units, and the destination is going to be bin 3. There we go. Choose that and execute. That is a lot easier than doing an inventory transfer document. So now that moved my units from bin 10 to bin 3. Now, you can also make a move order. Well, I can just select a row first. So if I want to move this item, instead of moving it myself right here, I can create a move order. And what a move order is, a move order is going to go out. Oops, I closed my my handheld device. So bear with me while I fire it back up here. Let's relaunch the handheld emulator. This, by the way, would be your logo. This would be branded with your logo, your colors. Oops, put in the wrong password here. Do this again. There we go. Okay. All right. So let's open up business one. And so I can also do a move order. And what a move order will do is under logistics, move. This will now allow me to process a move order. So I can move the inventory myself through the SAP client by simply doing a move, or I can dispatch a move order out to the warehouse so my warehouse team can actually do the move. So these are things you can do from the inventory report, or I call it more of a workbench. You can reprint receiving labels, shipping labels, item labels, product labels, create new SSCC labels. You have the ability to change packaging information, best by dates, quality status, batch numbers, and even batch attributes. And then you also, Progimax gives you the ability to view and lock inventory for special purposes. Basically, it's a hard allocation. So these are all of the things that you can do from this one workbench here. Now, let's go ahead and close that. We've done a little bit of sales. One of the things we didn't talk about was that you also have the ability to do container management on the sales side. So a lot of companies we work with are buying from overseas and they're receiving in containers. But we do have some customers that are such high volume distributors, they're also shipping in containers. And so that's where this comes in. So this will allow me to properly load a truck or a container for making use of maximum volume, and then process the status of that particular shipment. So you can ship in containers, you can purchase in containers. If we go into purchasing again, there's my container. SAP Business One also gives you the ability to do route planning. So if you do any of your own deliveries, then what you have the ability to do is you have the ability to do some route planning. So in this case here, I've got an open route. And if I have some pick lists that I want to add to that route, I just simply grab those pick lists. Of course, I could drill down and look at the pick lists as well, but I can real quickly just add them into my routes and change the drop-off locations, move them up, move them down, so I can get all of my Earthshaker stuff delivered first, and then I'm going to do MaxiTech. So this is a really nice feature. Now, the routes map, I don't have my internet browser set up on this demo system, but what the routes map will do is it will bring up travel instructions on the right for the driver, and then a map of all the locations on the left. So you can take advantage of route planning if you do any of your own routes and deliveries. Underneath inventory, the move order we've talked about, you've got a pick list proposal manager. Here, this gives you the ability to go out and do some different things. So if I want to look at all of my pick list proposals for a certain warehouse customer, this will show me all of my pick list proposals. And then from there, I can make changes if I need to. We talked a little bit about production. Production, again, will allow me to issue material to a production line and then take material off the production line once it's completed, move it back into inventory. And then with Progimex, you have scale integration. So if I need to weigh something before it goes into production, after it goes into production, I can do that. This gives you 3PL invoicing. So I do have some customers that are 3PL that I invoice monthly. I can go ahead and list those partners, and then I can go ahead and generate my invoices. So if you are storing customer inventory, this will then go ahead and generate all of those invoices for those customers so they can get billed for your storage services. And so that's another nice feature with the Progimex WMS. Now, Progimex WMS has a couple types of cycle counting that you can do. One of those is a directed cycle count, and that's what we're in right here. So this is where I can pick the locations that I want to cycle count, a production line, a shipping dock. I want to count my picking lines, my receiving, and my shipping docks maybe. So you could define exactly what it is you want to cycle count, what warehouse, is it a zone, all items in a zone, a range of items, everything in an item group, item range from A to B, whatever it might be. And then you go and click update, and that creates a cycle count. You can then use the handheld, and then going into logistics, we would go into inventory, and then in here, we would go into cycle counting. Now, if it's a direct cycle counting, we have a task. Right now, it's saying, oh, there's no zones to count. If I go into cycle counting here, if I do it without a task, I can select the location, and then I can just jump in and start counting. Now, the system can also automatically trigger a cycle count, even if you haven't set up direct cycle counts or predefined inventory to be counted. And this is a really cool feature. Let me show you how this works. We're going to go into the organization structure. I'm going to open up one of my bulk zones here. And what I can do on my cycle count tab for the storage location is I can check a box that says, allow this location to be counted during cycle count. Now that's probably a given. Common sense says yes, we should always check that box. But this box is really cool. What this box does is it will allow this location to be counted during other operations. So if I check that box, And if I'm just a warehouse picker, I'm going out to pick some 6307s from bin one, and it tells me it's due for a cycle count. It'll put my pick list on hold, allow me to take the next minute or two to count everything in that bin, and then I can pick up that pick list right off where I left off. And what can trigger that automated cycle count are these next two fields here. So what I can do is I can say, I want this location counted every 60 days. Or I can say, or I want this location counted after 150 transactions, whether those be inputs to that bin or pulling out of that bin, picks from that bin. And so these are some really unique ways that you can set up and automate the cycle counting for all of your inventory locations, your storage locations, put them on autopilot, and achieve a very high inventory accuracy. Now, what happens is when something goes into a cycle count, whether it's opted by the system or through a direct cycle count, then in here you'll see the user, the picker, who's actually performing that count. And all of that cycle count information, it's all saved for reporting purposes. And so if we go into reports here, then there's a number of different reports that we can run. Let's go into our KPI reports. And one of those is the average time, average pick time report. And let's say I want to look at all of my picking activity since January 1st through 12/31 this year. And now preview that report for me. And this will put it into a PDF, whatever output I want. So now I can see those picking statistics. I can see what items were picked on what pick list, what was the quantities picked, and how many seconds did it take to pick that item. Now, this is looking at it by pick list, but again, you've got other KPI reports in here where you can view this. Let's go ahead and do a time pick report. We'll do the same thing, 1 through 12/31. So you have different types of reports you can use to show the pickers, the pick list, the number of lines they picked, what's their average pick time. So this will kind of give you an idea of who's more, who's being utilized more, or whose utilization is better, which employees are doing more quicker, that kind of stuff. So all of these reports are in here. All of your KPI reports, your inventory reports, audit trails, traceability reports. One of the other things that ProjectMex WMS will add to the table here is full forward, backward traceability of all your goods, regardless of if they're serialized or lot controlled. And it does that through use of the SSCC codes. So one of the byproducts of using SSCC codes is full traceability from cradle to grave. Now, ProjectMex can integrate with a lot of different equipment. It can integrate with scales, touchscreen monitors, all kinds of scanning devices. And so this is where all of that integration work is done. We have some serial management that can take place, some basic tools. We use these in support if you need any help. But in a nutshell, that's a pretty high-level overview of ProjectMex WMS. Hopefully you found something that can add some value to your business. And if you need to see something in more detail, we'd love to show it to you. Thank you for watching.